The monofin they gave me, and my absolute favorite monofin to use with this tail, is the Finnish shooter. It is very comfortable, very easy to use. Yeah, the rubber foot pockets just work like a dream. I would totally recommend the shooter. This sounds like it's gonna be a bona fide disaster. It was a sexually confusing experience.
How is it?
No. I might die. I might die, but it's fine. Hey everyone, it's Nerdmaid Faith, and I'm joined here by Emma, Mermaid, Zelda, and today,
hello,
we're gonna be testing a bunch of monofins in various tails. I'm gonna be focusing on my FinFolk fabric line, and she's gonna be focusing on her Mertailor whimsies. So first test I'm gonna be doing is my Finnish tempo. This one was modified. It normally goes all the way around. I'm gonna be sticking this in my Fluke. For reference, my Fluke is the Lorena Fluke from FinFolk. So here we go. It fits nicely into the sandwich and now begins the struggle of putting it in. I actually managed to get my tempo in not without too much issue. That's great. So I think I'll leave the zipper open a little bit and begin the struggle of putting it on. I am wearing leggings today because that is what I've found to be the easiest way to slide on the FinFolk fabrics. So we're going to be doing a little bit of swimming in the tail really quickly in the pool, and then we'll get out, kind of say what it was like. Doesn't actually feel too bad. It honestly feels a little bit better than the Linden, and I think it's because it's slightly narrower than my Linden. Let us go in the water. Drainage holes on FinFolk fabric. These two little tabs, and they're supposed to go on the outside of the vinyl. Do you see that? That's how they're supposed to go. You're supposed to sandwich the vinyl in between the little tabs. So, tempo inside the FinFolk fabric. I would totally give this 3 out of 3 C stars. It's a very bendy monofin. Also, this one's discontinued, so you're only going to be able to find it secondhand. I totally love this. I will probably do this. It was easy to get on, easy to put in. All in all, a good idea. For my next test, I'm going to be putting one of my Suntails monofins. This is the Nudie Adult Monofin. It's very sturdy plastic, but still pretty bendy. Looks like it'll fit inside. I'm just going to see if I can slide it underneath the casing, and if I need to do the top holes to keep it in place, I will do that. I have decided that the screws are not working out with the Suntails. The Suntails might be a bit too wide. It's very tricky to figure out how to fit various monofins inside this tail. We also have the top mile screw casings, but most monofins are so wide you can't even put the top screws in. So we're gonna do it with the bottom screw only. One thing I've discovered is that, okay, you kind of need to be careful about where you've situated the monofin in regards to the top of the vinyl. If you have it too low and your feet are like shoved down, see right here, this is the top of the vinyl and it's like right over my ankles, and I'm getting a weird ankle bulge, so you really gotta pull it back. But it's hard when you can't really keep it in place because of the way the monofin is designed. So that's a little frustrating. We're back, folks. We're wet again. So the Suntails in the FinFolk, I'd probably give it like 1, maybe 1.5 stars out of 3. There's a lot of space. Like, I feel like there's a lot of air. I can't really control it, and I've never really liked this monofin that much to begin with. So it's just awkward and clunky. I could get it on pretty easily, so I like the slickness of the design, but it just didn't work that well. So, I mean, yes, it works, but I wouldn't really recommend it. It didn't make for a very fun swimming experience. FinFolk is like, don't use floppy fins, but here I am anyways, because Emma has some fantasy fins. So this is a Fantasea fin 1. Oh, it's so pretty, it's so sparkly. This is by Mertailor. So it fits on top of the Fluke, and I'm just gonna try and put it in. So, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. To see how far I can shove it down. So it's important that you center the inside little portion here. You center the screw with the like center line of the monofin, the bottom point. Oh my gosh. Look, this is so heavy. I might die, but it's fine.
How is it?
No. Wow, this is terrible. About the Fantasea and the FinFolk is like half a star out of 3. It does fit, but swimming in it was not fun because I couldn't get any of the vinyl screws except for the bottom one to work, which meant that there's a lot of open space in the vinyl, and I already am not the biggest fan of the first Fantasea, and so just the fact that this is heavy combined with some ballooning and drag just made it not for a good time. It's quite the calf workout. It was difficult to get into the fin because it's silicone. I didn't have a good time. So, wouldn't recommend this. Romeo and Juliet were not meant to be. They both died. Our next test, I'm gonna be trying the AquaMermaid monofin that I got with my Mermaid aqua tail. I know, super fun and confusing. This one has worked in tail with vinyl inserts, except that tail with vinyl inserts kind of sucked. So we're gonna see if it compares any better with the FinFolk fabric. It's very similar to the Tempo, or the Wave, so I'm excited to see what this will do. And for this one, it fits in right nicely. I'm definitely gonna be using the vinyl casing screws. So this is one thing that I found is kind of a limitation with putting different monofins inside of zippered Flukes, is that unless your monofin is bendy, you can only do a monofin that's as wide as the zipper.
That is true.
So that was like a challenge I had with the Linden, was just trying to fit it in the dang Fluke. So actually this is working pretty well. I feel like I've got enough push. I mean, it is flopping around in the vinyl a bit, but when I swim it'll kind of sort itself out. But I'm feeling pretty good about this one because this one is pretty similar to the Tempo and other fins. So let's just give it a shot. Tail with vinyl before that didn't have great drainage. Even if the tail with great drainage, it's still not working out so great just with vinyl in general. So, thoughts on this? It wasn't terrible, but I think what I'm coming to realize, I haven't used this fin a whole lot, what I'm coming to realize with is that it's just not built very well. It tends to fold in on itself a lot, and so combining that sort of length with the length of this and the vinyl didn't make for an awesome swimming experience. Like, it was still better than a lot of the ones I've tried so far, but it wasn't my favorite. I'd probably give it 2 C stars out of 3. So this is another test I managed to do with the Hydra monofin. Now I was a little bit afraid of putting it inside of the tail with the vinyl, so I just tried it without, and it barely fit in through the zipper portion, and it actually did fit at the bottom of the tail. It's a fairly long monofin. As you can see, it pretty much fills out the entire Fluke. Not width-wise, but definitely up until the middle portion, as you can see. Hydra on a FinFolk fabric. It does fit around that much space. Unfortunately, I think either I got too tired or we ran out of time before the pool closed to actually test this out,
But if anyone has tried this, let me know in the comments below.
Now I'm going to be trying my FinFun amp monofin inside of the FinFolk, which is going to be interesting. The Suntails didn't work awesomely. I do like this one more than I like the Suntails, so I'm going to give this a try. Is it going to work? We'll find out. I have my FinFun inside. I'm going to try and do the top screws on here. I had the same kind of issue with the Suntails where I couldn't quite get it really to line up with the bottom vinyl screws, so we're gonna see how this works. This is my first time doing anything with the top screws. This sounds like it's gonna be a bona fide disaster. In regards to the FinFun inside the FinFolk, it was a confusing experience. It was a sexually confusing experience.
Yeah, that's what I said too, right? It's confusing, right?
It's confusing.
Yeah.
It's like, it worked better than a lot of the other fins inside the vinyl. I think it's because the vinyl does like bendier fins, just because it works with it, but the fact that I couldn't get the screws to work was really infuriating, which meant that there was more of that pocket. I wasn't as buoyant as I thought I would be. In regards to the propulsion and the maneuverability, it wasn't bad, but it still kind of was sliding around a lot, and I couldn't go as fast as I could in other fins, but I would probably give this a 1.5 stars out of 3. Like, I know that FinFolk is like, don't use this type of monofin inside, but it's not a terrible option. I mean, there's obviously better things, like you can get a foil monofin for about the same price as one of these, and it's just as good. But yeah, it wasn't terrible. It really wasn't that bad, but it still like wasn't amazing. Not the best one I've tried. I can do it. I probably won't do it again.
So another monofin that I managed to try in this tail was the Mermaid Linden monofin. This is actually one of my favorite ones to use. I really like the Linden because it's really comfortable and it's easy to swim in, and it does have a decent amount of going neum. Now, it's not quite as fast as the shooter, and for this one I could only use the bottom vinyl casing screw, so the one that goes right at the very end of the middle of the Fluke, but regardless, this one was still pretty good. You can see I can do a lot of tricks in it. The reason I recommend the Linden to use in this tail is because it's a lot more affordable and easier to find than the Finnish Shooter monofin. The Finnish Shooter is fairly expensive, whereas the Linden can go from anywhere from $40 to $60. Now again, I am using the adult size Linden. I'm not sure about the kid size. I don't have one of those, but I imagine it would probably not be as good. Now the one thing about the Linden in this tail is that it has a little bit more surface area, so I am having to kick a little bit harder because there's more of the monofin to push up against the plastic of the vinyl, but regardless, I still had a really good time with this and would recommend it, so I'd say 2.5 out of 3.
Next up, my fishes, we're trying the Mirage. Actually, I'm curious about this. I don't think it's gonna work with many of the vinyl screws, we'll see. This is a monofin I got like 6 years ago to use inside like my FinFun shaped tail skins. So we're just gonna slide it in. It's very tiny. It seems like tiny monofins are actually working better with the FinFolk, because the thing I found with the Fantasea is that, and the Linden as well, is that because it has more length and surface area, that's more that you have to push against the vinyl. I don't know, it's hard to explain with drag and things and aerodynamics. Okay, so actually, this isn't as frustrating as other ones.
That one actually might be a good one.
This one doesn't seem so bad. This is what I'm saying about floppy Flukes and small monofins, is that they kind of work for some reason. Now the screws are very frustrating, but...
I mean, were they ever not?
Yeah, exactly. The Mirage inside the FinFolk actually wasn't a bad thing. I'd probably give it I'm tied between 1.5 and 2 stars. I'd probably give it 1.5 just because this fin does have its own issues. And of course, getting the screws in was a pain in the butt. But I actually had a decent time swimming in it. It felt very comfortable, very maneuverable. Yeah, I honestly enjoyed it. I didn't feel terrible. I did some good tricks in it. So if you happen to have this fin, give it a try. I'm really curious to see what if I do get another Luna, I'm really curious to see what the Luna would do inside. I feel like it might be different because it's longer and floppy and
Scooching the Luna in. Oh yeah. It fits really good actually.
yeah.
Or Luna in the FinFolk fabric. Bad idea. Yeah, I would probably give it, I mean, maybe if I had the screws. So maybe I'll have to try this again. If I had the side screws in, maybe it would work. But right now I'm going to give it 1.5 starfish out of 3. Because it's very floppy. And I mean, I know that the Luna always feels like swimming with nothing to me. But swimming with nothing, but also feeling that nothingness rub up against the vinyl and flap around, it's just really not a good experience. There's a lot of drag. It feels like I'm just swimming with the vinyl, so yeah, probably wouldn't recommend this one.
Last but not least, my baby, the Mahina. Now, I know it probably doesn't line up that well. I'm gonna try it. I'm thinking what I might do is just curl the fluke tips in a bit, just so that they fit better.
I mean, people have done it, right?
Yeah.
So,
but in different flukes. I think this one is the one that it's probably not gonna work.
wow, that wasn't that hard.
No, not hard at all. Not terrible. Let's see how it works with the zipper. I don't have any of the screws inside. Oh, concept. Wrapping it around and kind of sandwiching the tip inside the vinyl. Idea. If I just kind of wrap it around and fold it under. Yeah, that seems to be putting a little less strain on it. We'll see. And the Mahina. It worked. It's not like I've had all my hopes and dreams just completely realized. I probably will try this again. I probably should have worn the socks because the vinyl was starting to sort of clunk into it. But yeah, maybe with some adjustments this could work pretty well. And as for the star rating, I'd probably give this 2.5 stars. I mean, I'm thinking 2 right now, but I think my opinion will probably change the more I do this, so probably 2.5 stars. This is the Lorena Fluke. It does work. I didn't notice it put too much stress on the FinFolk, but like I said before, the fluke tips are just a little bit too wide, but I don't want to cut them, so I don't know, I might see about getting another Mahina so that I can snip one of them, but that'll come with more testing and everything.
So with a bit more testing later on that fall, I discovered that the Mahina does put a little bit of strain because of the thickness of it. Inside the tail, it does work, but it still isn't my favorite. You can see it doesn't swim quite as nicely as some of the other monofins I've tried. So this is a use at your own risk because it does work and it does fit, but it does seem to put a little bit of strain on the seams, as you can see in that clip right there. So use at your own risk, but it's not my favorite one to do at all.
But that is the end of this video. I can't believe we did this. This is so fun. Thank you, Mermaid Zelda, for joining me.
Of course, thank you for coming and swimming in my grotto.
Yes, so
as
good.
people call it.
Yes, Emma's grotto.
Yeah.
So if you guys have any other ones that you've tried that I didn't include in this video, please leave a comment. Also check out Emma's channel because swimming alongside me, she was trying a bunch of monofins in her Taylor whimsies, as you probably saw, which with varied results. So if you're interested in Mahinas inside Fantasy 2s or FinFuns inside Fantasy 1s, check out her channel to see her ratings on those. Bye! That's my conclusion.
There you go.